Photoshop, this is the way we kind of started off. This was just the example I'm using for the video where I cut them out and kept them like this. I named the layers, pose 1, pose 2, pose 3, pose 4, pose 5, in order of the way that they really appear. I saved this file. Then you open up Adobe Animate. Once you're there, you're going to choose the Action Script 3 setting. From there now, as we're on the first frame, we're going to go to File, Import. This time we're going to import to Library. Then we are going to find the sprite sheet that we just saved, and we're going to hit Open. Now when you hit Open, you're going to see all the layers come up. You do not want to select all. You want to just make sure that your check is on next to each one that you actually want. You see the one for the white in the background is not checked because I don't want that one. We're going to convert them to keyframes. You have options here, but we're going to do keyframes for now. And everything else as is, and we're going to hit Import. Now, you see nothing goes onto the stage or the timeline. It's gone instead into the libraries little panel here. And if you go into the libraries, you'll see the PSD file, and you'll see all the assets in, which basically is the layers inside. I'm going to close that up for a second. Go to the top one here, the PSD one, double click on it. When you double click on it, it brings you into its own timeline. And you can see that now in this timeline, there actually are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different poses. That is from the 6 that I had here in Photoshop, which was this one right here. These are the 6. You're going to have a little bit more than that. This is just for to show you how to do it. So from here, what I want to do now is I want to decrease this size a bit so I can see a little bit better. All right. And now I'm going to turn on onion skinning here at the bottom. And you can see in green, it's showing me the next 2 frames where they are. So the first one is this pose. The second one, as I move it, is over here. What I want to do now really is take this free transform tool, or hit Q on your keyboard, and you're going to click and drag this right on to where the other one was. You can zoom in to make sure that it's pretty accurate. You can use the up and down arrow keys just to get it right on there. And then I'm going to zoom back out for you guys. That's too far. All right. And then here, I want to go to the next frame. And I want to move this frame over on top of the other one. Again, use the arrow keys. Try to get it just right. Go to the next frame. Continually move yours back into place so they're all somewhat in the same position, or a placement, I mean. Okay? Each pose obviously is different, but some in the same location. So you click and you move with the free transform tool, so they're all basically in the same thing. Okay? When you click away now, if you move this, you can see her moving. If you turn off onion skin, now you can see her moving. All right? This little button down here, the loop button, if you click on it, you'll see that it gives you a loop from here to the end of your animation. So if you hit play, it's going to loop it again and again and again and again. Right? Like she's pulling it out of a holster kind of thing. All right, so that's perfect. You've set up now your PSD file that was brought into the library. What that means now is that you can go back into your scene. So if you click back on scene, you'll notice, and you can do fit on window. Okay, you still have your original timeline. There's nothing in it because what we set up is actually in the library. So take this PSD file from the library, drag and drop onto your stage, and you'll see it. Still take the free transform tool, hold shift, resize this, depending on how big you want it to be, and place it there. The next step is that we want to now put something else happening, right? We're going to put more than one thing. You could have another sprite like this where there's movement in one of the poses that you did, or something else can be happening. So I'm just going to give you an example using a background. So I'm going to go online and look up a background. We've been lucky with Yahoo lately. So I'm going to go to Yahoo Images. I'm going to type in NYC city scene. And then let's find an image for that. I'm going to go to large for the sizing. Once I go to large, I'm just going to click on one of the ones I find interesting. Maybe this one's kind of cool. I'm going to click View Image. I want you then to click, drag, and drop that into your folder or onto your desktop. I'm going to drag it onto my desktop. Okay? And then you're going to make a brand new layer. Now, before we do that, double click on layer 1, call it what it is. Naya, let's say cell phone, like she's pulling out her cell phone. So I gave that a title. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom corner and create a brand new layer. Pull that underneath Naya because I know it's going to be her background. Double click it, call it, scene or background, city scene or background. And then I'm going to import that one. Now, I could import it to the library also, or I could import it directly to the stage. And then I have to find that photograph. So there's the photograph. I'm going to hit open, and there it is. Now, obviously, I'm going to need to zoom out a bit, hold shift, resize depending on where you want it to be. I'm going to actually make it pretty big and just use like the sidewalk piece. So if you were looking at mine right now, you can see where it's kind of zoomed in on this area where she is. So I'm going to go out to frame 40. Now this one's going to be another one that's about 240 frames, but just for the practice here, to show you in the tutorial, I'm going to go to frame 40 for both of these. I'm going to hold shift and go to both of them, or click and drag down to get both. I'm going to right click, insert frame. So just as we did with the tween animations, it's the same thing right now from 1 all the way to 40 for both Naya and the scene. If I take off the loop, here we go, so we can see both. I'm going to select both of these, right click, and create motion tweens. Same way you did in the last project. Yeah, okay. So this one, it's telling me that let me see, can it be made into a motion keyframe? It can't, it must be converted to a symbol. I'm going to say okay. So I did them one at a time. So they're both blue now. They are both motion tweens. All right, so what am I going to do next? I'm going to go to frame 1 on Naya's layer. I'm going to click on Naya. I'm going to make her smaller, hold shift, make her smaller. Set her back here near this lady. Right? And now, by the time I get to frame 40, I want Naya to be moved all the way to here and made bigger. Like that. Okay? So now you'll see from frame 1 to frame 40, she's making that move. Okay? Well, if you actually go to control and test, it will also play not just this animation that you see down here, but also the animation that we put inside of Naya's sprite. Okay, so both things are happening at the same time. Taking up less memory, making it easier for Animate to kind of do it all at once. Now, obviously, if you were putting this together and you had an idea, the idea is the important part that you must start with. Maybe she could have done something where she was walking or jumping or skipping, and those could have been the little animation pieces rather than her just pulling out her phone. All right. You can always go back in. You can change any of these pieces. Maybe when I go to 40 now, this background piece gets smaller or something. I don't know. And Naya becomes, bigger than the place. So when I test it now, it's going to look all different, right? The background's going to be moving now. Obviously, that doesn't really make sense because there's no good idea behind that one. So that's what you're trying to do. You could pretend like you're doing something. These are all of Naya's photos. So she took out the phone here, and then she was taking a selfie of herself, and then I guess she put it back in her pocket. So I have other examples of similar kinds of things where you start off doing one thing, like you're reaching for something, or something else is happening. Maybe there's an explosion. Maybe your hand is opening up and you're catching a butterfly, and then you're holding it and looking at it, right? So all those things could happen. It's almost like you're putting yourself in the little video game, right? Creating a sprite animation and placing yourself in that way. This one, just like your tween animation, should have 6 things happening. So right now I already have 2. It means I only need 4 more. Not a lot. All right, anything else